Hello again. So yesterday we got straight to work on our new WRXs. The last thing we left off on was me comparing this car with the earlier generation VA that we had. So we kind of gave you an idea of what the exterior changes are. Next thing, as we promised, we want to get this car up in the air and talk about everything underneath. So Corey, you want to do the honors?
There's a lot of new underbody protection. This is carried over, probably not identically, but same kind of idea. But
these are new right here, and actually it looks like a 2-layer type system. There's metal and then plastic over the top.
Yep. Yeah, and then we got some more protection coming back. Obviously, the exhaust.
Much like an F1 car, there is protection the whole way through, and probably aerodynamics. Let's get Chase's hot take on this, because he happens to be here.
I really like it. I'm seeing a lot of things that are, you know, very much from the old VA. They haven't really reinvented too much of it, even though the car's a couple inches longer, right? It's kind of like he noticed, the first thing that I saw is that kind of where these mounting points would be, Subaru got rid of that super thick, it was like 1 inch wide, and however, the 2 bars for the skid plate.
Oh, that's right.
And they really protruded down. I think they really went all in on aero. This is so flat. If you look right here and look back, the exhaust is the only thing that sticks down. It's
so do you think it's going to be aerodynamically superior to the last chassis?
It kind of has to be. It kind of has to be. They got to do everything they can to get that fuel mileage out of it. But I'm seeing a lot of very similar stuff. The header doesn't look different except for the exception of the flange. I know.
It's a 3-bolt flange now?
I believe it's a 3-bolt.
And also the J-pipe.
The J-pipe. This bend right here looks just like the old one. We know that the outlet from the turbo is going to be a different flange, so it's going to be slightly different. But then again, you talked about these braces. This is kind of what we're seeing going up to this other cat. So getting an exhaust pipe through here is going to be a little bit of a challenge, but I'm not the least bit scared. I think I can do it just fine.
Yeah, and just for comparison's sake, we have a version 2 VA Jesse J-pipe right here, and you can tell that from the casting, it's more or less straight here. So we're pretty much gonna have to put a jog in the new one. I'm confident you can do it, Chase.
Yeah, I think
I couldn't do it. Well, that actually kind of brings us to what we're going to be doing next. After this little overview, Corey and myself are going to be taking the catback exhaust off of our old WRX, cleaning it up a little bit, and then we're going to drop this OE catback and see what we've got. From what I've heard, the OEM one is a little bit longer than the other version, so we'll probably take some of our piping out, but we'll figure it out as we start mocking it up. Yeah, we can tell if we line up the bends, the 2 pipes, the OE is longer by, I don't know, 5-6 inches or so. Yeah. And it looks like the flange is clocked differently. So we'll likely have to chop it, then rotate and re-weld. All right, I've got the 2 exhausts laid out right here. They're obviously very similar to the Y-pipe section. The mufflers should all fit nicely. Besides those mid-pipes, we shouldn't have to do a whole lot of modification. Obviously, the GrimmSpeed ones look a lot nicer, and it's gonna sound a lot nicer. And it is worth mentioning that this is an old exhaust. This was actually on our 2020 WRX before, so it's well worn, which is a prime candidate for us to kind of chop it, make a custom version, and just to see exactly how it fits. Now, eventually, our engineers are gonna make the proper decisions to make this into a full production unit. This is just gonna be kind of a prototype, so you guys can expect the type of noise and fitment that'll eventually make it out to your cars. So the Y-pipe mock-up didn't go as cleanly as we wanted it to. You can see there's a little bit of a gap here. I think after adjustment, we're gonna be able to make it fit, especially with a pair of gaskets in between. The difficulty was the hanger. Now with the GrimmSpeed Y-pipe, we have 2 hangers in one essentially, so we got to choose which one to fit in there. We might actually have to chop this one just in order for it to fit. I mean, it's okay, but it might rub up against the subframe at some point. Corey's got the mid-pipe here, and just as we thought, it is a bit longer. So looks like the flange will mate up just fine. The bend on it is good. And then there's your extra bit. This mid pipe being too long, we need to figure out exactly where we're gonna cut it. And with the way the flange is rotated, how we're gonna clock it properly. So got our expert welder, Roth, and his magnificent beard with us to tell us exactly how we're gonna do this, or your thoughts on it at the very least.
So I think for starters, we'll likely make some cuts on this end of the pipe. We should have some spare parts just in our raw goods in the warehouse here that I'll likely tack up this portion of the mid pipe that's including the 2-bolt flange to this little short tube section, then to the flex section. Get that piece positioned how we need to, and then we'll adjust the angling of the rest of the pipe too to make sure we have all of our clearances we need.
Since we've got a couple of the test fits done, what I want to do is bring in one of our VA cars that we have around here. And Clinton should be getting it. There it is, this red one. Now it's mostly stock. You can see a GrimmSpeed front mount. It's got a couple little bolt-ons on it. But what the purpose of bringing it in is to kind of compare and contrast the exterior of both cars. We've seen what the VAs look like. We've seen most of you guys pictures or videos of the VB by now. But let's see what they look like side by side. Start with the front of the VA here. So this is kind of the classic shape. We all know it's been around for 6 years now. We're well familiar. The changes they made on this are pretty evident. You can see the scoop is a bit farther back. It's larger, and then it has these fins in here. I do really like how this looks, and in combination with the updated headlights. That's another major change. This is what we already saw in the Lavorg from the last year or two, and I really do prefer that design. Going down the grill, you can tell they're also larger. It's a bit more busy on the VB, but I think it's gonna grow on people. In person, this looks really nice, and I'm imagining some aftermarket grill options for that as well. The worst part of this bumper is when you start getting below the grill. Obviously the unpainted portion here and the fog lights, it does not look all that great, as opposed to the V8 generation where the fog light was a different color and interchangeable with different aftermarket parts, but the rest of the bumper was more or less color matched besides the center section. So that portion does look better, but I think once it's painted to match, once there's nice aftermarket lip on that, it's gonna look a lot better. So this is one of the most highly talked about parts of the new car, which is these fender flares in the exterior. And I know a lot of people say they hate them, but they're better in person. And that is kind of the story, especially on the black WRX we have behind there, which blends in a little bit better. I do like them. They are relatively low profile. They have this nice little hexagonal texture on them, and functional vents, as Subaru will tell you, they are actual vents versus just an aesthetic piece. Whether they do something or not, I don't know. But these also do come off. We've seen a couple people on YouTube already take them off and get them painted to match. That's a route that we're probably gonna take with this car as well, because I do think it'll look better paint matched. As opposed, here's the other Subaru, which obviously doesn't have flares standard. Looks good. It has the little WRX badge here and some of the fake venting through the side, which the new WRX doesn't. And I do like that look. That's more of a classic Subaru thing. The 08 to 14 STI had something very similar. This will grow on us. The big change is the side skirt section. Again, unpainted, which was a bit of a surprising move by Subaru, considering that even the base model WRXs of the previous generation had a painted to match bottom. Once that's painted to match along with the flares, it's gonna look way better. I think it'll turn into a different car, considering we have 3 or 4 inches of unpainted plastic on the side. So a few of the other elements, like the antenna up here, the shape of the roof, the door handles, are pretty much identical from generation to generation. Where the changes come in is the rear end. So you can see the VA tail lights. We're familiar with those. It is significantly different on the VB. It looks a bit more wide body, the way that the trunk tapers in. Kind of like the BRZ, the newest generation 22 Plus. And obviously the taillights are completely different. Those are hate it or love it. In our case, we've decided that we do like the look, especially in person. You're gonna hear me saying that a lot. Pictures just don't do it justice. But I do also love this rear end when it's aggressive, when it's got maybe an aftermarket wing, a diffuser, it's lowered. It really does look great. So the main event, so to speak, is in the back of this car, and not in a positive way. It's this bumper that everyone's been talking about, and I can't even lie. It looks bad in person, in pictures, in videos, from space. It doesn't matter. This thing looks awful. So the best thing you can do is paint to match, I suppose, but my notion is these are really gonna get fixed once the aftermarket gets their hands on. These cars are able to make full bumper replacements. So that'll happen eventually. For us, we've got a couple ideas, whether it's adding some lip portions or the diffuser or paint to match or a third brake light. Hopefully that fits from the last generation. We hope to fix this area up a little bit. So for now, we're just gonna look from here up and enjoy that, and beware of looking down because you're not gonna like what you see. So Tyler was kind enough to finish up this custom mid pipe for us. Here it is. He's already mocked it up so we know it fits well. Now Corey's gonna throw it in. Well, we're all wrapped up. Really, the next step is to get it down on the ground, fire it up, and see how it sounds. Now, one thing I want to stress is that this is not a production exhaust. We've literally just taken the old GrimmSpeed Gentleman's Catback off of our VA chassis, adapted it to fit on this for the purpose of figuring out what it sounds like, what the expectation can be once we have a production version of this. So it'll still take some time. I know a lot of people will be commenting, wanting this exhaust. We'll get it developed, properly developed as quickly as we can, and hopefully you guys will at least get excited about getting one on your car based on what we hear from this. So one of the best things about having two WRXs, one for research and development and one is sort of the marketing and fun car, is we can compare a completely stock car to all the modifications that we're doing on that one. So Corey's gonna fire this one up so we can get a cold start of the OE exhaust, kind of freshen our minds. So Corey, go for it. Pretty tame, exactly what we would expect out of an OE exhaust. Now comes the exciting part, which is hearing the modified GrimmSpeed Gentleman's Catback on this car. Again, stock J-pipe on here, but we are expecting it to be a bit louder, definitely more of a refined noise. I guess we'll find out as soon as Corey fires her up. Is our battery dead? Wah, wah. This is a brand new car, why doesn't it work already? Technical difficulties solved. Obviously, since our welder was working on the car, he disconnected the battery, didn't reconnect it, so shame on him, and we didn't notice it. So we're all good now. Corey, fire this car up. Give a little more, a little more. Oh yeah. What do you think?
I think it sounds pretty good.
A little better over stock?
Oh yeah.
The next step is going to be taking this car outside and just getting some driving clips and maybe interior audio, just for the sake of scientific research to see exactly what this exhaust is going to sound like when a production unit finally drops. So on the surface, it's great. I'm glad we put in the effort, and let's see what the other guys think of it.